Hello, everybody. Welcome to Between Two Devs, formerly Beyond the Build. We are now streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm your host, Talia Kohan. I'm on the DevRel team here at Postman. And every other Thursday, we're going to dive into the workflows that make the hardest parts of API development easier. And our lovely engineers are going to show you real Postman hacks and features that you can jump right in yourself today. And don't forget, throughout the live stream today, if you have questions, please put them in the chat so that we can answer them. We really want your feedback. This is your direct line to communicate with the Postman team. So if you have feedback, comments, questions, let us know in the chat. All right, let's get into it. First up, we have Thierson on. All right, Thieth, are you ready to demo? Welcome, Thieth.
Hello, thank you, Talia. Hello, everyone. Thieth here, and I work for the search team at Postman as a software engineer. I work out of India. So I will be talking today about a problem that a lot of developers face, and I myself personally face it often. And I'm going to suggest a few ways in which you can be solving it easily for you and your teammates. So what the problem is. So I often find myself, requiring a bunch of APIs to develop a new feature that I'm working on, or to trigger some tests or any kind of workflows that I have. And the one thing that I often do to, reach this goal is to be able to find the right API. And this is something that I've heard from a lot of friends in the industry as well. And then they'd be like, "Oh my God, I really hate going and asking people for the right APIs." And they'd be like, I mean, people only share half of the information. They leave out something.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to keep asking people questions.
Like, how do people find APIs nowadays? Is it just like through Slack, like through asking teammates? Like there's no like consistent way that people find APIs, right?
Yeah. So that is where I would like to show a lot of interesting and impactful features we have at Postman that's going to make it much easier for you to solve this problem. So I'll be showing a bunch of ways where, as a producer of an API, you can make it easier for other consumers in your team to consume those APIs and discover them. And as a consumer, how you can easily find these APIs. So let me just share my screen. Yep. Cool. Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. I'm going to show a lot of problems I encountered and faced and how we solved that at Postman over here so that anybody can be solving at their work. So, Postman allows you to search just with your intent or any vague information that you remember. So working on the search team, I often require the search API, to integrate it with our UI and build features like search as you type. So now I'm going to try to find an API just with this intent. And let me open the search box. And I know I'm looking for an internal API, so I can apply this filter and just ask, how can I search as I type? Great. So I get a result over here. Let me just click on it. And awesome. I land on the result. I can open up the documentation over here.
Wow.
It says search API used for search as you type in search box. And I could also find examples here that are neatly organized for me to consume the API easier. So just with little steps like adding a nice description and nice examples, I was able to reach this API with very little information that I had, and just by entering my intent. And thank you whoever entered this description and example over here. So that was one of the ways I usually discover APIs here. And another feature that I use to discover stuff, let's say every developer in any organization is going to be requiring some kind of identity and access management with, and so do I. And I remember that the IAM team has a nice workspace where I can find this information. So what I can do is to apply a workspace filter, and I will type IAM, and you can see some results over here from public workspace workspaces, internal, I remove the workspace type mistake. But over here, if you see, there is an internal workspace and it shows a nice check mark over here saying added to private API network. So what the private API network is really a very, very, curated catalog of, your team or your company's APIs, which are ready to be consumed. So this gives me the confidence that, hey, this is the workspace that I'm looking for. And with this information, I can consume it. And, it's the best API that I can use for my IAM related use case.
So
What
you can search like public, private, internal, like everything.
Right,
Oh,
right.
wow.
I can just apply the filter over here, and I can just, for context, if you click on the drop down over here, you can view all the internal APIs that are cataloged into the private network over here, as well as the public network over here, and you can search through all of these things, and you have various signals that gives you confidence, like this purple check mark that you have, or the result being added to the private network. And quickly jumping into another thing that I usually do, let's say I just want to land on the public workspace that I started initially on. And here you can see a lot of collections here, and a lot of folders and a lot of requests under each collection. So to make it easier to search through things, what you can do is to open search, and let's say just type in and select Postman public workspace, which is the workspace we are on. And let's say I want to find a request to run monitors. Monitors are a feature in Postman that allows you to continuously monitor the health and performance of your APIs. So I'm going to try to say run monitors. Awesome. I get the result only from this workspace. I was able to filter it just by typing the workspace's name with a small keyword saying in, and I got the result here. Amazing.
Wow.
So, and the last but not the least that I would like to show now is, a feature called tags, which makes it really easy for me to find, workspaces or collections or APIs based on their business use cases and any status that I want to add to the particular element. So let's say I want to search a collection that is being used to run monitors like this. And I remember seeing a tag called monitor. Awesome. I can add this tag monitor, and I see all the results that have the monitor tag on them. And I can type search to ensure that I'm looking only into my search service. That's the team that I'm working on. And I can navigate to this result now and see that, hey, this is where the tag is. And, I can click on the tag to see all the elements that have this tag on them. And yeah, I could add more tags if I want over there, and make it easier for people to consume the APIs. So as a producer, even small investments like adding a small and descriptive description, which is going to be helpful for people to read easily, and adding examples to your requests is going to help people discover the APIs much. And you can also add it to your private network once it's ready to be consumed by everyone, so that it's easier for people to uh, you know see what is the best API they can use for their use cases. And at the same time, I can add tags to my collections or workspaces, which lets me group some of these uh, elements together based on the use case, and then I can just search based on the tag to find out which one that I'm looking for. So
Great.
yeah.
And this is going to save developers and publishers so much time, right? Because they're not going to have to like ask a teammate or
Yeah.
where is this API or how do I find
Yeah.
this, right?
Definitely. I don't need to text anybody. I don't need to, like wait to talk to someone to find the right APIs. I just need to head on to Postman where all my APIs are, and I just need to use any of these methods to search for them. And, voila, I got my result over here.
Amazing. This is great. Thank you so much, Theeth. If you guys have questions, pop them in the chat and Theeth can answer them. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring up our next presenter. Our next presenter is Giridhar. Let me bring him up. Hello there. Welcome.
Hey Talia, hey everyone, excited to be here. Of
Thanks for joining us.
course. Thank you for inviting me. And hello everyone, I am Giridhar. I am a senior product manager here at Postman, focusing on the API client. I am thrilled to be talking about the improvements we've made to the Postman sandbox and the scripting environment that you all love with Postman. we're going to be demoing live on how you can reference and reuse saved requests that you've saved in your collection onto like another request using scripts. Why you would want to use this is, oftentimes you might want to invoke like a saved request in your collection inside like another request. You might want to use this for setting up your test data, tearing down after your tests are done. Maybe you want to reuse some logic, reuse some, login token mechanism, or, come what may, right? So essentially you want to call another saved request somewhere else. We've released a feature that gets it done pretty fast. So enough of me talking, let's jump.
Are you sitting next to Thief, like in the same room?
No. But fun fact, both of us are originally from Chennai, and I am connecting in from Chennai today. So
great. So it must be like the Postman employees who work in Chennai use the same background.
Yeah, it's a beach, location, right? So
I like it.
I don't know if my background speaks for it, but yeah, cool. That's about. Let me jump into like a demo, like enough talk. Cool. Let me share my screen. Cool. Hope you all can see my Postman screen.
Yes. Can you zoom in just a little bit? Perfect.
Works fine. Cool. Awesome. I have a very simple API. I don't want to get too complicated with stuff. I have an e-commerce API. This is run on localhost, but you don't have to worry about that. So one API gets you all the products that this organization is selling. So essentially, this is /API/inventory, and you get like a list of products that we're selling. And we have an API to check the inventory of a product. If you basically give a product ID, you can check how many pieces are left, and essentially another one to place the order. So what we want to do here is, whenever, so think of it like an integration test, or come what may, like you're testing the logic or whatever, right? So whenever you're placing an order, maybe before you place an order, you want to go check if there is enough inventory left before you place the order, so that you're not surprised. Maybe that's something that's very common on all the shopping cart applications. Right? Sure, the server is gonna reject if there's not enough inventory, but it's always a good habit before you integrate, to check the inventory before placing the order. So let's see how the APIs are structured. You saw the get products API. This like a simple get endpoint that takes in no parameters. And then there's a check inventory API. This basically the inventory API that takes in a product ID. Now, throughout the demo, I'm going to be giving you some more tidbits that we have introduced in API client. So bonus over there. If you notice here, the product ID is a variable, and this variable doesn't have a value. That's why you see this in a red situation, right? So what you want to do is, if you want to test this API, probably you want to check this product ID. So you copy over here, and you just hover on this, and you maybe enter your value, and quickly you can test. Another way to do the same thing is to open this on the right side pane, and you get to see all the variables that are used in the request. So you can see the product ID, you can see the base URL, which is stored in an environment and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. We recently released it, but that's not the star of the demo today. And we have the third API, which is basically for placing the order. And if you see in this, you can see that, oh, wait, there are no variables here, but what am I seeing over here, right? Now, you can notice that this is a post request, and oftentimes for a post request, your information is going to be in the body. And when you're interacting with it, maybe you're missing it, maybe you're sending it just like that, and your API is probably going to error out with 400, no more. So you get a notification asking you to fill in the blanks. So I'm going to fill in the product I need and like the quantity I need. Now let's talk about building the logic itself, right? So what do we want to do? We want to, let me just get all of these out of the way. So we want to basically check if, we have inventory before we even make the call. So before the place order is called, we want to check if there is inventory with us, and then only then we want to make this call. So to do that, let me just do some initial setup. As you can see, I'm putting in like a base setup. I'm getting the product ID that we have given over here. and going to introduce a try catch block. And what I'm going to do here is usually what people are going to do is they're going to call this URL, and you can notice that the URL is going to be pretty hard to find out. And basically, this is the URL, and this URL might change, but this is what we used to have in Postman. This is what people used to do. Basically, call in the inventory URL, and we have this function called uh, pm.sendRequest. Oh, that's Postbot making its magic, or agent mode, whichever you want to call it. So we do pm.sendRequest, and essentially what this is doing is sending the request, and I'm going to also check the response over here. Yeah. So I'm going to check the response. Now what this is going to do is this is going to send this request URL, and this is going to check if there is stock or not. But you might have noticed that this check product inventory also contains scripts. And sometimes you might be changing the base URL here. This whole API can change. It's not a very nice way to call this request because you're essentially copy pasting URL. This is prone to errors. You can change the URL. Anything can happen, right? So while this works, while this is going to say that, let me just open up the console. This is going to say that your product exists, and we are going to execute this order. Probably not the best way to do it. So instead, what we've introduced is a new API in addition to the pm.sendRequest, in which you can directly reference the check product inventory API itself. Now let's do that. Now this is the new API. So I'm going to do await this is pm.execution.run request. And as you can see, this is going to take a request ID, and this is going to take in like a bunch of options. Now, what is request ID? Request ID is this thing that exists over here. Nobody knows about it. So what we're going to do is we're not going to bother about request ID for now. Instead, instead what we're going to do is I'm going to select my API just by following this dropdown. So maybe I want to call the check product inventory API here, right? And this is going to automatically fill in the request ID for me. And I'm going to pass in some variables because I know that this API is taking in like a product ID over here. So I'm going to do variables. So it's basically overriding variables here, right? So product ID colon product ID. Cool. So now what this is going to do is not only is this going to send this request, but it's also going to execute all the scripts and tests along with it. So if you can see, while I'm executing this place order, it's calling the check product inventory API, which is in my e-commerce API / check product inventory over here. And it's calling the reference request, assertions over here. So here I'm asserting if the status code is 200 and if the inventory has like quantity and if it's in stock and all that, right? So this is a very cool feature that we've recently released. So what you can do is essentially you can call in any request from not just this collection, but also collections outside of this collection, right? So that's going to come in pretty handy. Now, what we've done here is we are getting the response. We are checking if if it is in stock. If it's not in stock, another cool tidbit: you can skip this request completely. Why? Because this is in a pre-request script, a script that runs before actually sending this request. If the product is out of stock, I'm just going to say, hey, don't even execute this, order for me, and I'm going to, bail out. Now let's maybe check it out with a product that's out of stock. This headset is out of stock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, pass this on as a variable. Dot 006. Cool. I'm going to order like 20, right? Because I'm a maniac. But because it's APIs, right? Now, if you can see here, we didn't get a response back. Now, why is that? That's because our scripts executed. I know it's probably a lot of screens hiding, but our scripts executed, and it's not in stock. So it's calling the inventory API. We are getting a response that says that it's not in stock, and we are coming to this if else code block, and we are out of stock and we are bailing out. And that's something cool that we probably released a year back, but not a lot of people know. So good to know, I guess.
This is really great to know. Thank you. And I
Yeah.
think like these reusable requests, like it's going to save developers. Again, it's going to save developers so much time when writing scripts, right?
Yeah, of course. I actually originally didn't plan for this, but having been inspired from Teet's demo, I thought I'll quickly add one more, flavor to this. What if, what if your order goes out? Maybe you want to get notified on your message, right? So basically, I want a post response hook. Once I get a response, I want to maybe call a famous API out there that can send messages. What could that be? I could go to Google and search, but ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm gonna go use Postman search and search for Twilio. Now, as Steve mentioned, I'm going to search in the public domain, and I already see that there's a Twilio messaging API that is done by the Twilio organization. I know that this is authentic and it's not gonna do something else. So let me just go see what it is. They do have a send an SMS functionality, and all of this looks good, but maybe I want to change a bit, right? Maybe I want the body to be a bit more composable. I don't want to send like a hello world. So I'm going to fork this collection. Not going to go through the flow. I've already done it recently. So I'm going to fork this collection, and here I have the same collection. And what I've done is I just made the body composable, made the SMS body composable. Now, this has nothing to do with my e-commerce API, right? That's why it's in a separate workspace, neatly, looked away from the rest of the stuff. But I do want to call this API. Now, I know there is reusable request, but can I use it? Can I reference this? Of course I can. Now, for this though, you need to go to the request ID. So I'm going to just copy this request ID, and I'm going to come back to my e-commerce API over here. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some initial setup for all the auth token and whatnot, right? So I've stored all of these in my vault. So it's Twilio auth, Twilio's ID, and my personal phone number, which I'm not going to share it in live stream. Don't worry. Fun fact, all of this is in vault. So oops, nobody can see this again. So this is the most safest way to store your secrets. You see all my secret stuff over here. Oh, maybe you can't intentionally. Anyway, we have all of this over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do, I'm going to call that SMS API here. Now pm.await, pm.execution dot run request. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste the request ID and just watch what happens. It's going to pull the workspace, this request that's existing in another workspace. It's going to pull that request, and it's going to reference it over here. Now, how cool is that? No matter, you can reference it from your own workspaces. You can reference something from a public workspace. This opens an array of possibilities that you can play with. So I'm calling
Really
in this.
Yeah, this is really, really incredible. I had no idea that Postman could do this. So this is really great. Thank you so much, Giridhar. We're gonna move on to our next demo because we just have a few minutes, but thank you. If you guys have questions, please post them in the chat and Giridhar can answer them. Thank you again. So let's go to our next presenter, David. Welcome, David.
Hi, thank you. And thank you, Gary. I'm an engineer on the API client team, so Gary and I work together. Good to see a friendly face on here, along with all of the new faces listening in. And I'm going to show some of the ways to use Postman's agent mode tool that folks may not know about. Agent mode has come up a lot recently. We're really excited about it. And let me just share screen here. Here we go. I think we're all increasingly familiar at this point with popping open agent mode or postbot to come in when you know what you want to do with the AI, or when you're kind of starting from scratch and brainstorming. But what I want to talk about is situations where you might be doing something else, some task that you don't think is related with AI at all, and agent mode can show up and help. And let's just start from the top here. A few of these are going to be familiar things you might know about. A few are things that have existed, but we've improved. And then a few are brand new. So familiar, but you might not know about. The visualize button at the bottom here pops you into agent mode with a prompt that makes sense in the context you're working in. We know what you're trying to do here. We know your data. We know you want to visualize. We can build you a visualization. And that is a great way to speed up what can be a pretty slow task. Let's make sure it did the thing. Yes, it did.
Wow.
Great line chart. That was fast. So yeah, super great tool for like a data-rich API that you just want to explore. You can cycle through different chart types, see what makes the most sense for your data, and you don't have to learn chart.js to be effective. One more existing thing that folks might not know about, in the documentation section, agent mode can help you speed up the process of generating docs. This is something that LLMs are really good at. It's something that humans are not always really good at, or sometimes forget to do. And so I think it's a great use case for an LLM. Again, just pop into the documentation portion of the sidebar here. And if it were not already populated, you'd see it prompt for generate documentation that gets attached to the entire script.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't like writing docs myself, so I definitely use agent mode for this.
Yeah, I kind of do, but I think I'm the odd one out there. And so now moving into stuff that's maybe changed or new recently. We have always warned you when you're unable to connect, but we've improved the connection refused screen down here, making it a little bit easier to read and making the debug with AI on-ramp to agent mode easier to find and more powerful. So here, my protocol is incorrect. I sent it. Agent mode got my prompt, which I didn't have to type. It spotted the typo. Looks like it has the right change in mind. It's going to send the request, and we will hope that it is green. Wonderful.
Wow.
So what I like about this is it's just right in the flow of the work you're trying to do. You're not going out of your way to find agent mode. It's kind of coming to you in the moment of your problem.
Yeah, and this is going to make debugging so much faster because agent mode just does it for you.
Yeah, and is great at stuff like finding typos. So you can do the same thing in pre-request and post-response scripts. I've got a typo here. I think we can guess where this is going at this point. Agent mode is going to find the typo and think for a minute. Sometimes things go wrong in live demos.
No, we are still in agent mode beta, so this is totally fine. Like we're still in beta, agent mode is not 100% perfect. No LLM is, but we are still in beta. So sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah, the joy of working with cutting edge tech.
Yeah.
We'll speed up the process of it thinking and recovering here just because we're demoing live. Post
I think it worked.
response.
It fixed the thing.
Yeah. Post response, same story. I've got a typo. My test results couldn't evaluate the test results or test script. And it's going to tell me right here how to use AI to help. So just trying to speed up these common workflows.
Amazing.
And
And if you guys watching haven't used agent mode for debugging, like this is a great way to use agent mode to debug your scripts, to find typos, to do so many different types of things. And everyone now besides enterprise has access to agent mode. So you can go in and use agent mode however you like.
yeah, if you want agent mode and you don't think you have it, you can double check your settings under feature previews here and toggle it on and off. But yeah, more and more folks should have it on at this point. So yeah, last two, we've talked about script errors, connection refused. There's also the oh so common, 401, 402, 404, 500 error response codes. Now, historically, we've always just had the same button that we have for a successful response, which is visualize. But we went back and looked at that and decided you would not want to visualize an error. That doesn't make sense. You would want to debug an error. So the debug with AI button now appears. Let's come back to a clean slate here. And is going to pop open agent mode with the hopefully one-shot fix.
Yeah, I love that it just like edits the request for you and like fixes it
Boom.
immediately.
Yeah, we're good. And then last that we'll look at today, a pretty kind of exploratory new area. We've always had send. We've always had send and download. We also have send with AI. This is new. This can cycle through a couple of different things you might want to do with agent mode. And what I think is neat about this is you might have a problem in your request and still be trying to, let's say, visualize the response. What's going to happen here is you're going to ask agent mode via the prompt, help me add a script. Agent mode is going to run it, see it fails, see how it failed. And it'll propose a fix. The fix should work. It's going to remember what I was trying to do in the first place. Here it remembers, yes, I want visualization. Let's say precipitation, please. I actually don't know what it's going to do with this prompt. Let's find out. I think the data gives precip, but I'm not sure. Let's see, I want the visualization. There we go. Yep. Precip.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. And so, depending on the state of your request, we'll try to give you the right subprompt here. The request is already successful, so we'll try to give you something like visualizing response or adding tests, which is likely to be relevant. If the response was already failing, we're going to default to, actually, we need a full error code it can recognize. We're going to default to, I'm sorry, actually, live demo. Because I've cycled through, it doesn't have defaults anymore. But if this were a totally clean slate, the subprompt would be get to a successful request. So the broad theme here is agent mode just tries to show up in the moment you're doing a thing and having trouble, whether it's running a script or adding tests or just calling an endpoint, adding docs, and tries to offer the prompt that's going to help you with that specific task. So if you know what you want to do with agent mode ahead of time, awesome. You can always get to it with the icon at the lower right. But if you find yourself wanting it in the course of work, all of these little doorways we talked about are ways you can use it for a task in the flow of your work.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And thank you to all of our presenters. That was really amazing. I just want to also mention before we jump off that we just published the State of the API report, and it's full of new findings from thousands and thousands of developers. It has practical tips from API developers and executives, so be sure to take a look. And thank you all for joining us. We're going to see you in 2 weeks for a fresh set of demos. Thanks, everyone.